Welcome, everyone, to the Four Sacred Gifts, a podcast where we joyfully and responsibly amplify the voices of Indigenous elders, young and older. It's so important, the solutions, the way of being that we can share with each other so that we can truly care for each other, all our relatives, all the elements. And today is so important, the ocean, Mother Earth, everything. And I'm just very excited. I'm Dr. Anita Sanchez. I'm Nawa, Aztec, and Toltec. And I excuse my voice a little. It's allergy time. And I coming here to you from the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, the land of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute. And they're still here and have lots to share. And today I'm so excited. I want to get right to it. I have this most amazing man, this most amazing young, I call him an elder. He's an elder rising. They're everywhere, the young elders. I just love it. And his name is Bodhi Patil, and he's founder of Inner Light. Bodhi is a UN recognized award-winning Gen Z ocean climate solutionist, the co-creator of Ocean Uprise and the founder of Inner Light. He is a recent Masters of Management dual degree graduate with a BA in Environment and Sustainability from the University of British Columbia. He has been featured on CNN, TEDx, United Nations Web TV, Forbes, Apple, and many international media outlets for improving ocean and human health. His life mission is to help a generation discover their inner light, strong body, calm mind, and vibrant spirit, and in doing so, become ocean guardians. Through Inner Light, he aims to prove that young and Indigenous people have an outsized benefit in protecting the ocean and boost investment accordingly. Utilizing next-gen education tools, I'm sure he'll tell us about that, as a catalyst for ocean impact is key to his life's mission. He will tell us more about the Sea Keepers that he's part of and that he just completed a documentary. But I also want to say, personally, I'm so excited to see him. I met Bodhi, a year plus ago in November, I guess, of 2024. And we met on the ocean, crossing the Atlantic from Lisbon, Portugal, to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Some 400 of us. And Bodhi was a highlight. Bodhi, well, you see, I don't need to talk anymore. I just need a welcome. Welcome, Bodhi, and let us know where you are. It's so exciting to be interviewing you from the ship.
Well, thank you so much. I've been trying to find a cool spot to show you, but I'm actually on a beautiful vessel right now at sea, crossing the ocean. And just like when we met for the first time, I'm back on the high seas, and we've been going from Palau, which is a small island in the North Pacific, all the way to Singapore. And I'm on board the Ocean Explorer, which is actually a research vessel for deep sea science, connecting to the origin of all of human life. And I think one of the amazing points that I got to connect with you on is really around how life emerged from the ocean and how we have a sacred responsibility to steward the ocean. And we're so aligned on that gift as one of the obviously many sacred gifts of our planet, as you always talk about, is water. And water is connected through all life forms. And what's really special about what is actually right behind me is one of these incredible tools to explore the water and explore the depths of this water. So right here, we're here with the Ocean X ROV, and it's actually a vessel that is autonomous. So it's unmanned. You don't have to have anyone in it. And it can go down over 4,000 meters down to explore the seafloor and some of the places that are extremely sacred from a cultural perspective in many Indigenous communities across the Pacific. Certainly sacred for me in my community and the places that I come from in central India, being connected to drought and famine, but also water. And this is a masterful tool to explore the deep ocean, the parts of the planet that no one has ever been to before. So it's really cool to be able to share this with you and be able to kind of circle back on the topic of ocean stewardship. So as I have all this awesome conversation and we catch up, I'm going to show you different parts of the ship. So I hope you get the chance to get a little tour as well.
Good. That's wonderful. So we'll just follow you when you wish to go different places. Um, so what I would love for you to share, in addition to showing us the ship, is what is it? In your bio, you talk about using these Gen tools, and of course, I think the biggest tool, the biggest vessel, is you and all the other generations and generations who are out there leading and supporting and helping us shift to where we remember how to care for this earth and water and planet that we are part of. So maybe you could share a little bit more about that and anything else you want. There is no set questions for this. This is just live to let our audience, those viewers and listeners, to learn about the wisdom, about the knowledge that nature provides us that we as vessels are able to bring forward.
On the note of vessels, I think on the last vessel we were on, we got to connect over the importance of ocean stewardship and what it means to channel the wisdom and knowledge of water that really is a vessel of education and of knowledge and a store of emotion, love and pain and challenge and overcoming. And I think what's interesting about what I'm currently doing and where we find ourselves catching up is that over the last few weeks, I've been focused on exploring this question of how can the ocean and science that we have really find harmony with indigenous science and traditional forms of knowing, especially in the emergence of technology and AI and crazy innovation, right? Like this is one of these crazy vessels that goes and explores the seafloor and the deep secrets of our planet. And while I definitely don't have all the answers, I'm excited to explore that with you. And I think in terms of vessels of change, the biggest parts of our planet are still massive vessels for connectivity. They're ocean or deep sea. These ecosystems, we know so little about. Only 27% of our ocean is mapped out. And we know more about the moon than we do our own planet, our own seafloor. And what's really beautiful is just before this, we had a massive pod of dolphins come up to the ship and start bow riding. And all of these creatures, all of these beings in the water, not only are they sacred, but they're incredibly biologically, culturally, economically significant. And all these creatures are responsible for the health of our planet. Without them, we wouldn't be here thriving on this earth. I think what I'm reminded of constantly while being on the water and getting to connect with you before on these very deep areas, thousands and thousands of meters, is that the stories from the seafloor are often silenced or not spoken. And I think what's really important here is that a lot of the voices of my elders and ancestors from central India, central Malaysia as well, are oftentimes silenced. And I think a lot of the voices in the communities that I work with on Inner Light, which I'll share more about later, are often not at the forefront. And these underdog stories matter. So bringing the voice of the ocean to the room matters. And I think it's really an exciting opportunity to do that when we use science, technology, indigenous science, and all the tools at our disposal to really bring this mission together for the future of the ocean. The ocean is massively at threat right now, and we all need to work together in protecting it.
Oh, definitely. And I'm so on just listening with the softest part of my ears and expanding heart. And I invite all of you who are listening and watching to do the same. I've been, Bodhi, in the last year, working with scientists, Western scientists, who together are understanding that maybe we can't weave it all unless we start from the point that everything is sacred and we're part of everything connected. However, we're making some really headway. And I am so aware when there isn't someone present, and this is due to you and our time together, that isn't focused on the ocean. We don't know those stories of the depths of the ocean. I just had that opportunity with you, and then the year before on the Arctic Circle, and it's alive and it's keeping us alive. So please go ahead and share.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the Arctic Circle and how these areas of the ocean are very underexplored. I think one thing that I've been fascinated by is the level of depth and nuance there is when you start to discover these places. And on board this ship, the Ocean Explorer, we're actually in the mission control room right here. So this is where all the ship's calculations get done. And we're mapping out kind of how deep the ocean is and what's going on, and the ship's direction right here and different sensors. When you start to map and navigate through these really treacherous and also unexplored waters, you start to find secrets. And I think these secrets can tell us a lot about the future, because oftentimes we try to skip the past and not necessarily reflect on the past in order to change the future. But in reality, the biggest ways that we look forwards are by looking back, and the future is always ahead of us. And I think what's special about the ocean is that it's kind of like it's our whole history represented in this massive container. And the ocean not only is directly linked to our health, the ocean's a regulator of our climate, it's a regulator of our economy. It's the most massive provision on our planet that sustains all of life. And without it, we wouldn't be here at all. And I think it's just absolutely amazing and also challenging to see the rate at which this sacred living entity is being disrespected, violated, and treated in a way that honestly does not reflect that it's the basis of all of life and human existence. And I think to me, that's it causes a deep sense of pain and discomfort, physical pain, emotional, psychological. And at the same time, the feeling of the ocean being regenerated, the feeling of the ocean being restored, it coming back to life, causes the opposite feeling, this joy, this love, this sensation of possibility. And I think that's what we want to pour into. We want to build a better ocean future for all of us, because we certainly need that as we navigate these waters together.
Yes, I hear you. And I'm speaking for me. I grew up in the middle of the U.S., and we always honored my grandmother, my indigenous elders. We'd always go to the river, to the streams, but they always told us this all ends up in the ocean. So we have to care for it, because then it comes back around, and the ocean and the rain that comes. So there was a cycle. But I didn't even see the ocean until I was 16 years old. So I find that dramatically different than how that was a part of your life. And so I think that a part of this, I don't think is malicious. I think some of it is the excavating, and that is certainly not conscious, being conscious anyway. But that it's just not knowing. And so that's why I'm so excited for you to be able to share the stories. What would you feel we need to know? And I want to say that when we were together, the first things as a landlubber that I did is when I got on the ship and I realized, oh my gosh, we're not going to get off all the time like I did in the Arctic Circle. We could hike. And I was like, but how am I going to ground? How am I going to do every morning I greet the sun, which I did on the ship too. And that first night I went to sleep, and sure enough, I dreamt, and two whales came to me, and they said, it was like a beautiful way of saying, like, silly, we'll do it for you. We're always doing that for you. You are being held and grounded all the way to where you get onto the earth again, the land. And I was so happy. And the next morning, it's one of the few times we saw a whale. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I just said, be well to your partner, whoever that I didn't see there at that time. So I just love how you're walking us through this place. And then I'm going to be quiet again to have you share, more of your knowledge and stories, because we're eager for it.
Think one of the biggest learning opportunities, especially in the past, from the ocean, is just the amount of knowledge that we've yet to understand. And I'm going to take you in a different universe that we're working on during our hackathon this week here on the Ocean Explorer. But one of the biggest lessons that the ocean teaches you is humility. And it's honestly the most grounding space for me, because in a world where there's so much ego governance and where so many decisions are made just based on cognition and just based on maximizing economic value and welfare, we oftentimes forget that the greatest assets are the unrealized ones, and the ocean is the largest contributor to our global economy, the largest carbon sink, the largest heat pump, the largest contributor of our health, of our marine proteins and probiotics. Without the ocean, we simply wouldn't exist on this planet. And that's why we need to use all the tools at our disposal. And whether that's technology or deep sea exploration tools or any sort of subsea activity, we need to know that the ocean is something we cannot lose. And without the ocean, we wouldn't have any life on this planet. So to me, it's the most grounding space to be in. It's interesting that in the Arctic, you didn't have a chance to necessarily find grounding, or rather in the Arctic, you had a little bit more of a chance to find grounding. But when we were crossing the Atlantic together, that was a little bit more challenging. And I guess I'm curious, Anita, from your perspective, like, how do you feel like you connect with the ocean on a deeper level? Beyond just the fact that obviously it's a massive body of water full of different biodiverse creatures, what's the more spiritual and ecologically connective part for you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I dream about this all the time. I fell in love. The Arctic Circle was my first voyage the year before that. And I was just mostly overwhelmed, smiling and crying all the time because it was just so beautiful. But when I was on that long journey of 11 days on the Atlantic, and 7 of those we didn't even see land, I all of a sudden something shifted. It was definitely all the way humility, but there was then also this knowing and feeling in a real way that the ocean has always been holding me, holding us, holding life. And I was just like so excited, apologetic, but also just thank you. And in that holding, all sorts of other things began to emerge as I could listen and watch in a different way of how my connection is to the ocean. So that was very powerful. And before I spent a lot of time protecting uh, forests, rainforests, the primary rainforests, and and yet I always knew that the rivers that run through those are key. But then I realized, wait a minute, what the ocean does, I didn't even realize how much carbon that it is actually holding, how much life it's giving to us. So I'm just so grateful to being able to know this relative that's always been here, always providing abundantly. Because what I had learned thus far is just before then was the 90 species of big fish that are all gone because of what we've done, and then and some of the pollution. But then what I did get is what you're talking about, the possibility, if we open our hearts, if we do action that's conscious and caring, that this can go on forever with us being here. I think the ocean is quite strong. So I don't even want to go there. I think the universe, spirit wants us all, the children, to be here. So I am really counting on that you and I and the millions and billions actually of other people that we will hold in our heart, our thoughts, and our actions. So that's a long way of saying I'm in love. I'm so in love with the ocean.
It's really special because there's just as much as we don't know, there's so much that we do know. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget all the knowledge over centuries and centuries that communities on the coast have understood. And you don't need all this high tech equipment in certain cases to understand the biggest secrets that the ocean has to share. How you harvest different things in the water, how you fish in an artisanal and regenerative way. Like, you don't need to go 5,000 meters deep to do that. You don't need an ROV and a sub. What you need is deeply connected communities. And one of the interesting concepts that we've been discussing and grappling with is, how do you find the nexus between indigenous knowledge that's sacred and protected and honored, and the intellectual property, indigenous IP, is really responsibly stewarded, with the new emergence of technology, with the new possibilities and tools that are at our disposal, and rather at our stewardship opportunity to discover all these secrets that we've yet to find out. So that's what I'm really curious about. And one of these questions that I've been grappling with is, how and when should indigenous knowledge be implored to add depth and nuance through technology? And how should Indigenous knowledge and traditional ecological knowledge from coastal communities, from inland communities, from your communities be properly represented when it comes down to how it's shared through technology, and whether that's on AI, on an LLM, or whether that's, in a new science or stewardship tool or an ROV. These are things that we need to make sure are programmed into how the world operates, because respect is paramount. So I know it's free, prior, and informed consent based on United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. It's also more than that. Obviously, you have a PhD and you've done your research in your community and also in your science background. I think those two lend us such a complementary skill set in sharing maybe some truth to this, because it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And yet it's so true. And the beautiful thing is to see like you on this incredible vessel doing this research. But what I'm finding is with these scientists and us coming together, it's they understand that as long as Western science has good things to offer, but it's so siloed, it's so separation, and it is indigenous knowledge, nature knowledge that we learn from that says, no, there is not separation. And so these scientists, I think you'd be delighted. I'm curious what the scientists you're working with found. These scientists, some of them actually have quit the Harvard, the Oxfords. They're great scientists, but they began really being with nature, realizing they are part of, and they were hearing things, literally hearing things from the trees, from the earth, from the rocks. And they would put that in their reports only to have their organization say, no, you take that out. You're a great scientist. This is all beautiful, everything else, but you have to take it out. And they're fairly young. I'm not talking about older people. They're fairly young. And they just said, no, no. And they themselves were drawn to us as Indigenous, saying, we're finding out things that you've always known. And there's so much more. And can we go together? Because, and of course, our first response is, of course, we've always been one. That's the issue. We need to remember. And so I love seeing you just with that background and where you are, and showed me the dolphins before, a little video of them. We are so interconnected. And as long as science is willing to walk together, not always up ahead or a side thought. And that's what I find is when they're right there with us, that we are expanding what is possible and from nature. Because I don't want to it's not just human wisdom. It's nature that's coming through us. And then I think it's all possible. I have to say one other thing. Yesterday, I interviewed, they'll see on the show, Basil Braveheart. He's known for his work, incredible 93-year-old elder of Lakota. And he's been working with quantum physicists. And they're like, well, yeah, the sound, the vibration, all these different things that your grandmother with no formal education had been teaching you. And it reminds me of mine too, who had no formal education, yet is one of the wisest people ever that I have known and probably will know in my life, because she is connected and understand this oneness.
That is so. It's interesting that you talk about your grandmother specifically, because in the ocean there's so many matriarchal species, and whales are one of these matriarchal species. In terms of the family of whales, there's so many beautiful whales. My favorite are humpback whales, sperm whales, and killer whales. And killer whales, uniquely where I'm living and from, the sacred lands of the ancestral and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, where I went to school. Not my community that I represent, but an ally to that community. Their ancestors are killer whales in certain communities, and these killer whales are actually matriarchal. So they follow the wisdom and knowledge of their grandmas in making decisions. And I think that that's something really, really important to keep in mind and recognize, and also protect, because all these matriarchal species are threatened, right, in a patriarchal world. And there's so much that we can learn from their knowledge, their deep ancestral connection, their ability to tell, like, just like the dolphins out front, tell each other, oh, there's a vessel passing by. It has all these cool science labs in here. Why don't we go and bow right on the vessel and use it to catch different fish? These orca whales are incredibly intelligent. They have their own unique cultures and stories, and they have so much to share. And I think we have to protect them at all costs, because they are some of the last ancient matriarchs on our planet. And you know how sacred that is. So some of the knowledge, like you said, that scientists have spent their whole careers trying to research in labs like this one, actually can't be explained or understood just by Western telescopes and swan neck lamps and different fixtures for understanding biodiversity, light tables. The best and most important lessons oftentimes are the ones that can't be explained in a conventional way. They're much deeper. And I think convincing people of that requires a bit of evidence, but also requires just a bit of honesty. And that honesty is just sharing the truth and reality that in a patriarchal world, we need more matrix. We need to listen to ancestral knowledge sources, because science hasn't quite caught up yet. So it's this beautiful nexus. And I kind of feel like, it's a bit of an irony to be on a ship so heavily focused on science, because some of the Earth's original scientists haven't really had the chance to use these tools. And I think it's time to level out the playing field. It's time to give the matriarchs the rightful tools that they've always deserved. And yeah, I don't know how we make that happen though. It's just it's a lofty goal, but what do we do to actually envision that and make it come to life?
I think you're doing it already. The first part is envisioning it. It's a remembering, actually, because most Indigenous, I can't speak for the 6% of the world's population that are Indigenous. However, those over my many years, decades, I'm 70 some now, early 70s, and almost all of them were matriarchal. But then it shifted as the patriarchy, as the excavators came, and I don't want to keep separating the colonists. However, that doesn't mean what they did then that we need to stay in that. We absolutely, and everything is changing in our midst. Everything is unraveling, and in that unraveling, the matrilineal, that kind of knowing. And I use more matrilineal, and I'm going to say why, Bodhi, is because matriarchy and patriarchy is about power over. And I believe that the way nature works, which is very much matrilineal, is not that it being over, but rather that holding that love, that caring, that deep knowledge about all sorts of ways in terms of how to be and do in the world. And so that matrilineal knowing has been disrespected for a long time, but it's rising. And that's one of the things I loved about you, because there's no reason to be scared of that. It's not about putting men or what we call male out, because I think masculine, feminine, we have all of that in each of us. But nonetheless, it's really about returning to the oneness, the caring and loving. So I think that you're doing it by. I saw your video that you sent me, and seeing the people there, I think it was Palau, and seeing how much they are one with the ocean, and what happened when they weren't, the destruction, the things.
Oh, in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, Papua New Guinea, that's where it was.
Yes,
Papua New Guinea. Oh my
South
gosh,
of
that was so
Micronesia. Yeah.
beautiful. That's exactly, you're showing that by you producing that film. That's one of the ways that's already happening. But it's also happening as you and others come together and see what and actually ask spirit to help us. And that's the part that Western science misses too, which is really crazy, because we're all energy and spirit. And that's where quantum physicists says, no, we need to return to that knowing that we are that energy, that spirit connected to everything. And that to separate that means to not know. That's pretty heavy duty saying. We don't know if we do not connect that together. So I think it's a great time to be alive.
Matrilineal. Okay, I'm learning lots. Thank you for sharing that.
Uh, Yeah. So where are you?
I also I wanted to mention the Papua
Go
New
ahead.
Guinea
Yes.
situation. You brought it up. It's really interesting. Should I show some visuals about that as well? Would that
Yes,
be
please do. And let me see if I
relevant?
can
Oh, I
get it
think I
done.
can share my screen.
Good.
Bada
I
bing.
was hoping so. I didn't know if I needed to make you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, there you go.
Let's see. I guess I just want to start by um I'll just quickly share some of my own connection and background before getting to what's gone in Papua New Guinea, because I think that's what you're mentioning here. So we all come from, blue beginnings. And I think what's really special is that um, we're born into a world after spending 9 months in our own mini ocean. I don't know, have communities described it like that in your home community? Because so many
Yes.
different indigenous communities, I hear this.
Yes, it's the womb. It's water. We that's our whole life. That's when we say water is life. We're talking about it in so many levels. And that's how we come in. And all of us began there and actually continue living because we wouldn't be alive. But start back in the womb, I think gives us the possibility of I'm a part of a group called Wombs of Peace, because in that
Mm.
womb, there's total care. There's total spirit taken care of, the magic, but also the physical. All of that is there. And and I think when we remember every being, I'm talking about two-leggeds right now in this womb, but a lot of other beings started in a womb. And what can we forget that? So thank you for starting with this. It's a beginning, an important beginning to look at.
Yeah, I just want to share briefly my own story and link it to some of the larger stories that we're seeing in our ocean planet. I always grew up with really connected parents to the ocean and to water sources and to nature and honestly to ourselves and to each other. And that was really important. It created an incredible, safe, and stable base for me to build on, to take big risks, to put my voice in spaces where most people wouldn't, because honestly, it's scary. I'm scared. Um, at times when you advocate for things that the government doesn't want you to, or when you stand up against a force or a big company that's doing very extractive things to the deep sea or to coastal waters or to the ecosystems on island nations where people are constantly threatened by all these extractive industries. It's scary. So I had a really good base to build on. I loved the ocean and got to explore all these magical ecosystems and got to play with crabs as a kid and understand that everything's connected. But I actually started to lose a lot of love for life zest after moving around so much. I felt like a tree without roots, and it caused me a lot of pain. And I include this little card because it's a really important reminder that in sixth grade, when I was bawling my eyes out, I found one thing that was helpful, and it was this acronym STOP. Literally, stop. Take a breath and breathe in. We can do one together.
Yes, let's do.
And out.
Everything.
We can thank the ocean for that one. And we can do one more. Inhale, breathe in the love and the light. Exhale the darkness. And on we go for our whole lives. And observe yourself, STO, and P, proceed with love and kindness. And it was a simple reminder, but an important one. And it taught me that there's always going to be light at the end of the dark tunnel, and that by working on our bodies, our minds, and our spirits, we can discover our inner light. So I spent some time working with First Nations, rather Native American community, Lummi Nation, um, in the Upper Northern Washington State area, and Lummi Nation is a community that I still go back to work with, and now get the chance to possibly directly support through my foundation, Inner Light. And I'll share more about Inner Light, but going back to these matrilineal species, these are the southern resident killer whales that are matrilineal. And I think, again, they're incredible vessels of knowledge. I actually did a campaign working to educate them and protect them through a student story on Apple and better monitor their behavior, which was really a special opportunity. It taught me that, these species, while they're so strong and powerful, while they can eat the hearts of great white sharks. These are many different shark species. Actually, great white isn't on here, but great whites are, known to be very deadly. I'm sure you can picture a great white. I was actually able to work to protect these killer whales and help share their stories and show that we can be powerful creators and that you are a powerful creator. I used to tell myself I am a powerful creator as an affirmation because I realized a simple thing. And my mom, who's a professional karate athlete and just a complete legend, taught me that life can be simpler than the world makes it out to be. And you can keep your joy even in a world full of pain. You can live in these realities and know that intention, really setting your intention and adding action, direct mobilization, that equals results. And so that was what, in a way, guided my life, my childhood. And it guided me to get to spend time with incredible marine species like these green sea turtles and humpback whales and connect with these beautiful pink whip rays and these pelagic and reef black-tipped sharks. Help me understand the difference and interlinkage between ocean and human health and the opportunities and impacts in its stewardship, and help me to connect with so many different communities, Aboriginal, First Nations, Indigenous communities, rightfully how they like to be respected and named across the planet. And whether that's a Maori community in Aotearoa, New Zealand, or Uncle Wirunga Dungir, who's Aboriginal to Australia, taught me that we need to really push on systemic levers to help the ocean change and combat climate change. And so in Papua New Guinea, getting to this narrative, actually, there was a very specific area that looked like paradise, but it was deeply, deeply under threat. And this area had a toxin problem that was causing the death of fish and eels, like you can see here, but also the devastation to human health. So I realized we have to do something because these kids literally, this was pretty emotional. And Anita, seeing this kid like staring you in his eyes, I'll never, ever forget that moment. Um, and it kind of taught me like, why would these kids have to bear the responsibility of a changing planet, not knowing what's going on? Why should they have to do that? It got me really fired up. So we started mobilizing direct action campaigns on social media. That's now reached over 420 million people across all channels online, media, press. The Guardian just published an article with us. We did massive media mobilizations on Instagram. These videos went viral, building campaigns to educate people and, most importantly, to take action. And this story that really was tragic turned in an opportunity for, well, not fully celebration, but a little bit of joy reinstilled in a space that honestly lost a lot of joy, a lot of playfulness in a place that got very serious, where these kids had to grow up very fast, not having access to fish or their ecosystem's health. And there's so much online about this campaign, so I won't share too much more, but I just will wrap this part up by sharing that problems require massive mobilizations across Indigenous communities, across science bodies, across philanthropies. And that is exactly what my life's mission is: sparking this interconnectivity and building solutions to address not just the symptoms, but the root of the problem.
So beautiful.
So thanks for listening to that
I
one.
feel like you're sharing so much, allowing us to look through your eyes and hear your words. And they all speak community, connection, life. And if that's, and it is in danger, and why wouldn't we respond? And why wouldn't these children that are our children too, why shouldn't they be able to have some of the joy? Not some, but just be joyful, be part of this abundant world. And the ocean plays such a huge role. So you're teaching me so much, and that's just really, uh, and I know others are learning too. And I want to say a couple things. One, we need to listen, open our hearts and listen, and then take action and listen to all young people, elders rising, I call them, because too often
Yeah.
I hear from older people like me. I don't want to separate. None of it's separate. We all connected. However, saying, "Oh, it's their turn now." They get to. It's on. Wow. Just no. That's not where I am, and that's not where a lot of older people are. We don't want to be in the way. It's your time to lead. We need to support. But when you need us in front, beside, underneath, behind, we need to do that. And we need to do that with all of our resources, not only our love and our prayers, but also the other resources, financial, connecting to other people and things. That's just so critical. So I'm hoping that as you spoke and as I seeing a little bit through your eyes that others are also experiencing that, and it's sort of a call to action, because it's it is not enough. And I want to also say your affirmations. I'm learning something, and I just feel I want to share it with you. I Part of my PhD is in psychology and positive psychology, which is so valuable, and so a lot of the importance of doing that. Of course, Indigenous people always said what you think matters. And we were always taught that. You can be good medicine or bad medicine, and what starts
Yeah.
here matters. But what I learned is that the affirmation is important. However, what I learned from science, but the research is that rather than just doing an affirmation, unless you've done a lot of internal work, there's a little thing in your head, that cynic who says, sure, sure, you're gonna
Yeah,
now.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So start with why, why, why am I such a beautiful part of this abundant world? Why? It's the why, which we were originally taught in psychology. Don't use why, because it puts people on the defense. But we're refining from the vibration, from the energy. Quantum physics is other. The why is important, because when you say the why, the universe responds. They're going to
Mhm.
show you the why. Isn't that wonderful? So I just wanted to bring that
Mm.
in, because that was a new learning for me in just the last couple of years. And as I do that every morning with my morning ritual, I'm finding that gratitude, and the gratitude in the why. Why is life so giving? Why am I having the resources needed? And I'm not talking about second homes, there's all that kind of stuff. I'm saying why? Because what happens is it comes just like the relationship with you come. That fills our life. That fills our ability to really take care of and be in action. So there's just a couple of things that I wanted to share with the audience. It's just so
Mm.
critical. And I'm so happy, Bodhi, that you share with such possibility, hope in action. And people know this four sacred gifts, the fourth gift that Spirit gave us is hope in action. And that doesn't mean doing nothing.
Mm.
It
Yeah,
means
right.
being in action. So that's really critical. So let's, anything more you want to say? We still have another 10 minutes if you have it, to share.
Yeah. I would say, like, building on this hope and action, I think a lot of older generations oftentimes reinforce this message that, oh, young people are going to save us and young people are going to be the ones that create the future of the planet. And I think, as you know, you just gave in that reaction, like, it's much deeper than that. It's about intergenerational collaboration. It's about knowledge transfer. It's about passing down power. It's about creating a world where we can actually co-govern, where we can exist in dualities and lived experiences that are very different. to create a future that's healthier and more abundant for everyone. And I think it's very easy to get distracted by this idea that young people are going to save us and therefore we don't have a responsibility for stewardship.
In fact, Bodhi, I do a lot of work with intergenerationally and on boards where they're youth directed, but they're doing all over the planet and supporting them. But it's just very important to understand that I let them know, like, I'm not going anywhere. And even when I'm 6 feet under, this comes from a lot of Indigenous ways, I'm going to still be here. And I'm going to be
Yeah.
whispering to your heart, to your, go that way. That's, you know, and just supporting, because we're that energy is not gone, that we are not gone. And I know with my ancestors, and I know you know with yours, they're here with us. And in fact, all of you who are listening, you're here with us. Your ancestors are here too. And I know many want to remember who they are, and you can find out, not only literally, but even in dream space. A lot of times I help people find who their relatives, just when before you go to sleep,
Wow.
say, I want to reconnect. And so much wisdom there, because all of us started Indigenous. Not, I don't want to get you in trouble, because what is it talked about Indigenous now? People who did not lose the connection, people who remember and have that. But that doesn't mean that you don't come from a place and time that they were connected to place, to water, to earth, to all of that. And so don't just throw it away. Oh, that's hopeless. I no. We are still part of life. We have a purpose. We are all needed.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think that going, like, building even further on that narrative, like, literally tying it back to the start. We come from the ocean. We know so little about it. We have this sacred responsibility to protect it. But we all come from this shared body of water that runs and flows through our DNA, that was connected to in our mother's wombs, that has always been a part of our existence, that we literally bring with us wherever we go, in the cells and breaths of oxygen we take, generated by the abundance of phytoplankton in the sea, providing life on this planet. And this unique gift of water is what makes us special in the cosmos and the entire galaxy. And I think, in a very high level and zoomed out cosmic perspective, the ocean is what makes us special. And on a biological perspective, the ocean is what makes us all unique. And it's what gives us life on an ecological perspective, sustaining all the ecosystems that we depend on. It's the, heart, the beating blue heart of our earth. And from a cosmovision, so many communities have always understood and stewarded this knowledge with incredible grace. And despite the onslaught of different factors that have led to forced erasure, there is still so much wisdom that has to be gleaned and shared. And I think one of my life's mission personally is making sure that we show that young people and Indigenous people have an outsized benefit on ocean health and human health. And that's my goal in building Inner Light, to prove that thesis, to invest in communities that show this tangible difference. And I'll actually just show you a few photos of some of the good stuff that's happened recently, some of the really positive things that have been generated from Inner Light. And I'll just start by, again, re-emphasizing briefly this thesis around Indigenous young people have outsized benefit in boosting ocean health and human health. And this is key, despite minimal investment. And so I think this is actually, a perfect way to begin to get to calls to action and wrap around building proactive solutions to pressing problems. That's what good allyship looks like. That's what happens when we foster resilience from the inside out. We learn from ancient wisdom, and you become an ally while supporting wisdom traditions, Indigenous-led ocean stewardship. I remember on the stage, we had such a different group of people represented. We had people from Central Mongolia, throat singers, Indigenous to the Red Sea, Indigenous to Benin, and even the North and the Arctic. And it just taught me that there is this interconnectivity between all of our cultures, and that what we need to do for philanthropy and investment is human-centered investment for nature, not nature-centered investment for humans, the opposite. That's what leads to impact. That's how we support a diverse range of projects focused on biocultural stewardship. That's how we build back ecosystem functionality and ensure the prosperity of coastal communities and ecosystems. And some of the grantees that I've been able to support through Inner Life Foundation, through my funders and communities, are uh, doing this work. One is the Indigenous sonic weaver, Sister Fire from Aotearoa, who's using song, art, and dance to steward ocean ecosystems around Australia and around New Zealand, Aotearoa. And Sister Fire, in this photo, she's playing the conch shell, which and has a whalebone flute, and of course, whalebone earrings connecting her to her ancestors, but is really putting a call out for the ocean's voice and how we all need to venture on this waka of mana, this vessel, this boat, canoe of energy, mana, in the Pacific, that's what it's called, to make impact. And I think she is a strong reminder of the important work that needs to be done to steward the ocean and make sure its original voices are heard. Um, One of the other grantees is Emma Oliver, who we made a documentary about called The Seakeepers. She's from East New Britain, and she focuses on community coral restoration, protecting corals, culture, and community with the East New Britain Seakeepers. And what they're doing, not only in addition to restoring coral right here and monitoring and taking photos and restoring the ecosystem, as you can see from one of my friends from PNG that we photographed here, is they're providing alternative pathways for young men and boys who would otherwise be in violence to get off the streets and become guardians of the reef, and teaching them about that interconnectivity. And it was very much a pleasure to be able to get to know each and every one of these boys and hear their stories and journeys and understand how they're mountain to sea stewards, building traditional ecological knowledge capacity, and also learning from the original brains of our planet, which are our coral reefs, which they're protecting. It's been such an incredible journey around understanding traditional ecological knowledge is the most important factor to safeguarding all of our planet's systems, because science is incredibly important in giving us the baseline. Yet without this knowledge that takes it to the next level, the application can be very difficult. And when paired together, it's an unstoppable force. So um, I just put these photos together today, actually, so it's perfect to get the chance. But the message is simple: it's follow the directed guidance of the traditional guardians of Mother Nature, and those are these beautiful leopard sharks, and all of these sharks here, all the beings of nature that are so important. But they're also the people. It's simple. Nature and people can coexist in harmony. I think that's my biggest message, and that's a message, have a bit of fun with it. This was a cool sea cucumber, but that's the message of coexistence.
Yes, and I usually when before we close, I ask, uh, "What's your dream?" And I feel like you've been telling us your dream, and you just closed it beautifully, your dream. And so, I think most people, when they hear people's dreams, especially when they're life-giving dreams, and yours is clearly life-giving, that we want to support that. So could you say again, how do people find you and find that fun or the site? So if they feel drawn, or when they feel drawn, not if, but when, that they can support in all the different ways that human beings can.
Yeah, super easy. All you have to do is follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn and send me a message. Get in touch, and I'll share all of the inside scoop of Inner Light. I haven't fully released it to the public yet. I'm keeping things close to heart, close to home, to really show that there's an impact before, making a huge campaign out of it. Sometimes the best kept secrets are always there in front of our eyes. So for those who want to support, please reach out directly. It's that easy. I'll also provide my email and my information to get in touch in the show notes. But the biggest thing is that my dream, creating an ocean where we live in harmony with folk and creating a humanity global space where we live in harmony with the ocean, can actually be realized. And it can happen in my lifetime, but it's going to take a lot of freaking hard work. That's what we're here, though. That's what we're here to do. And I'm not one to back away from a challenge. My ancestors sure weren't, and this is the biggest challenge of our generation. But might as well have a smile on your face when trying to do it. Otherwise, life's pretty freaking grim. So that's what I'm trying to do on board this vessel that we're all sailing together to a better future.
Oh, I love that. Sail together to a better future. Bodhi, this has been just amazing. And I know all the people listening and watching, what I find when I hear back from people is exactly what my intention is, that not only are you listening with the softest part of your ears and expanding heart to these wisdom keepers, to these elders, young and old, about how we return till we remember that of the care of all of us, all Mother Earth, all her children, all of us. And what I know to be true is they fell in love with you. They came to love you. I don't even want to call it falling. It sounds like it's accident. I think there's no way when your heart was open like that. So thank you so much for who you are and your being. And I'm going to put in the why. Why why am I able to learn more about the ocean and be with people I love? Why? So that I will see you again, and hopefully, it will be on the ocean or right next to the ocean, where we can remember together the past, but most important, where we're going, where we're going. So thank you very much, and we will put in the notes, and you all can see, those who are watching. But when you said Instagram of that, is it Bodhi Patel or is that an inner light? Bodhi, what would they
Yeah,
be looking?
I'll send my Instagram as well, and it's just at Bodhi Patil on all
Okay,
platforms: Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever you
good,
use.
good.
That's how you stay
Thank you.
follow the journey on the high seas.
Good, good. Thank you so much, and thank all of you who are listening, watching, taking all of this to heart. And I look forward to seeing you next time. But yes, I love that. Let's end with that sign. Thank you so much.